Welcome to the Actually I Can Female Entrepreneur podcast. I am your host, Kaylee Greenacre, a business strategist, coach, TEDx speaker, author, and your go-to woman for all things business strategy. I am obsessed with supporting female entrepreneurs to grow unstoppable six and multi-six-figure businesses that they love, giving them the freedom and life that they desire. During this podcast, I'll be sharing with you everything that you need to become a successful female entrepreneur, from the mindset shifts to sales and marketing strategies, and how to become an iconic leader that people can't get enough of. It is my mission to help you stand out, attract your dream clients and customers, and sell out of your offers with ease whilst building the business and life of your dreams. Let's make this your reality, ladies. Hello, ladies, and welcome to another episode of Actually I Can, the Female Entrepreneur podcast. And I'm joined today by the fabulous Emma Sills, who is a mind and body transformation coach. And in today's episode, we are going to be diving into something very unique, the CEO wellness strategy that no one is talking about. And Emma is going to bring us so much value to this podcast episode. So make sure you tune in till the end. Emma, it's an absolute pleasure to welcome you here on the podcast today.
Thank you. Oh, it's been a pleasure to actually join you. I know we've been talking about it for a while, haven't we? So it's good to get together.
Absolutely. So why don't we start off by introducing to our listeners a little bit more about you and your journey?
Yes. So I'm a mind and body transformation coach, and I work with women, helping them to create sustainable changes to their health from the inside out. And I think that approach is basically from my experience. So I've come from a gym background, running gyms. Before that, I came from a corporate background. So I kind of know the stresses of the corporate world and getting, into a line of work that you have more kind of passion for, I guess. But my journey was from corporate 10 years in a job that I would say I didn't really have a lot of passion for. I got into the fitness industry and I got into competing as well, and how I was working in corporate and I was also building my fitness business on the side. So I would teach like around all the gyms. I got qualified to teach all these classes. And so I was kind of like running myself into the ground, running two jobs. And then on top of that, I also decided that I would start competing in bodybuilding. So I started training. And coaching and going down that route. And I spent probably like 3 years competing and reached a high level. I got my pro card. I came top in the UK, got flown out to Miami, came third in the world. So I went for it. If I decide I'm doing something, I'm, going all in. But that whole journey of extreme training, extreme dieting, enabled me to learn a hell of a lot about that, but also it enabled me to kind of build a method that doesn't use extremes. And I kind of came to the conclusion that you don't have to be miserable and unhappy to have a great body and good health. And I think through my journey of competing, I reached some of my like lowest points. And like to everyone else, when you talk about competing, like everyone's always so interested in it. And it is fascinating. And it was like, I was turning up on stage and I was doing these shows and I was winning and I looked amazing. And I was flying out to Miami, and it sounds like this glamorous, job that you've got. But the reality of it was I was the most unhappiest I've ever been. I was at my lowest point mentally and physically because I had just depleted everything. So I was training to such an extreme level, like the amount that I was doing on such depleted food, because with bodybuilding, it's like a science, isn't it, of making sure you're eating the right things at the right times so that you've got the right look, and that your body fat is coming down. So for me, like, my body fat was like hardly anything. Like I couldn't pinch anything on me. I was so unbelievably lean. And then like leading up to getting up on stage, you do like, your water, you make sure that you're limiting your water. So you're very, very dehydrated by the time you step up on stage. And that all has a mental effect and like a physical effect on you. And for me, the aftermath of that was, my hormones were all over the place. I was depressed. I had eating problems from that. Um, I just found that anything I ate after that, I felt like I was like almost like exploding. I was like really puffy all the time, and like I had probably like body dysmorphia as well. Like I sort of went down this route of like I really didn't like my body, didn't want anyone to see me, didn't really want to go out, and it was just this really sort of like I guess I really learnt what extremes can do for you and why now I know that that is not the way to create sustainable health.
Yeah.
So yeah, that I guess is my kind of journey into the processes and the things that I've built now, and why I sort of strongly believe that it is kind of from an inside out approach. Because I think when I was at my lowest, there was certain things that I guess I guess in my own sort of um, process, I was finding coping techniques with
Hmm.
dealing with not being very healthy. And certain things that I noticed that would help is obviously a good diet, um, mentally. Even things like going out for a walk every morning. Like that really helped me mentally to get out of almost like that depression that I'd got myself in, or that right low mood, no energy, didn't want to do anything. Like so I kind of like learned as I went along these things that would help me at that point in my life, and that obviously now I share to other people. But one thing it did actually lead me to do is like study more like the power of your mind, because I kind of realized that I put myself obviously under immense stress, like physically and mentally. But I think you can only do that if you've got a strong mind, because most people would probably give up because you wouldn't be able to put yourself through training that hard and all of those extremes. So I had a very strong mindset in that I knew where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do in terms of my competing. And I was able to mentally do that. But I think it also led me down the route of, how your mind works. And I started studying NLP, um, which I found really interesting. And just learning, well, I mean, ultimately, it's like the study of excellence, but
Hmm.
it's really sort of powerful how you can use your mind and all the tools that actually are available to you to support you in everything you do in life, I guess. And I think that's where a lot of what I do in linking kind of the mind with the body is a huge thing, because a lot of people that come to me that want, change, physical change, um, it's diet and training, and that's what people believe it is. You've got to get your diet right and your training right, and you do, but there's so many other things that come into that to create what I would say is like optimal health. So it's not just about how you look and that you eat clean, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a fascinating journey that you've been on. And obviously you've learned a lot along the way in terms of your own experiences, and then obviously bringing this all together to create your own holistic mind and body methodology, which, is obviously now supporting and helping so many, individuals, to really focus on, yes, their performance, their work, their body, but also their energy, their leadership, like all of these different things, especially as a female entrepreneur. So let's dive into a couple of these elements, because I think this is really going to help our listeners, especially when looking at, your approach, your methodology, but also how to be successful. and really consider, all aspects. So I want to touch on the mindset first, because I know that's something that you just sort of spoke about. And I think
Yeah.
as female entrepreneurs, I feel, in business, we quite often we push ourselves through this exhaustion, and we call it drive and motivation. I think that's something that we always call it. But ultimately, a lot of what we do always comes down to that mindset, doesn't it? So, are there any, I'm going to say, mindset patterns or mindset strategies or anything that you do to support high achieving women so that they can show up physically, but they can also show up in their best selves, really, in order to be, as successful as possible?
Yeah, I think with the mind, like we forget about it. I think it more so now, there's a lot more talk about, mindfulness, whatever that means to an individual. But I
Yeah.
think um we train our bodies like when we want to get fit and healthy, but we don't train our mind. And if we trained our mind as much as we trained our bodies, we would have that balance. But
Mm.
because we don't, we just think, right, I want to get fit and healthy, I've got to go for a run or I've got to go to the gym. But actually, if you started almost like from the inside, from your mind and getting your mind into the right place, then the rest tends to fall in place. So it's not that you're kind of again like your body and your mind isn't working against each other, because when your mind knows, like it has clarity or it has support or it has more knowledge about things, then it works with the body and you've got that mind and body connection as well. Like when I train people, I talk a lot about the muscle connection, the mind and body muscle. So rather than just training like lifting a weight, can you
Yeah.
feel it? Like that's really important. Like, is
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
working? Like, are you connecting that to your brain? Like, rather than this is a bicep curl, I'll just do that. But are you actually feeling it? Like, so yeah, so I kind of do take a little bit of a different approach to that. But in terms of like just sort of general, like I think when we're running a business, we're kind of always on like hustle, aren't we? Sort of
Yeah.
drive, drive, drive. We've got to
Absolutely.
get to wherever we want to go to, and we don't think about how important it is for our minds. I think we live a lot in fight or flight mode, and if we take it back to like caveman days, so like fight or flight was survival, yeah, because something could
Yeah.
have attacked us. So we needed to fight it off or we needed to run. So what happens is our body would give us the energy to do that, to fight or to run. So everything else would shut down. So it's just given us the energy to do that. So what happens now is we're not under attack as such, like we haven't got something, a lion coming to attack us, but we do live in that stress, that fight or
Yeah.
flight. So our bodies, therefore, are like running on anxiety because
Yeah.
we're thinking like we're stuck in that fight or flight. And so then what happens is the rest of our systems kind of shut down to give us the energy to just do the fight or flight or to deal with that thing that's just come up, that scary email that we've now got to deal with that's created that stress and that anxiety. So we kind of run then on that all the time. And because the world we live in now is so fast paced, we're constantly getting that thrown at us all the time. And we don't take that time to step away, to relax, and to allow all the other systems in our body to work. So we're quite often just running on fight and flight, which then means everything else is shut down. So your digestive system and, our mindset and all of that isn't working as effectively as it could because our body is saying we're always in this area where we need to survive. So we're in survival mode. So then everything else doesn't work as properly. So I think mindset comes into that a lot because if you can just take some time out,
Yeah.
like, and not
Have a break.
be on your emails, yeah, like it can be that simple though, because I think when you initially think like mindfulness or meditation, and I know like I've coached a lot of people saying, like meditation wise, it'd be really good to spend 5 minutes just doing some breathing exercises. I think initially um, a lot of people think meditation is sitting there in for a long time, and it doesn't have to be. Like going for a walk can be a form of meditation. Just like spending some time by yourself in your own thought process, or, just in the morning, getting up, sitting down, and just spending 5 minutes, or not even 5 minutes, just doing a couple of like deep breaths. Like
Mm.
that is enough for you to just take that time away from the stress and the anxiety, and to allow your body and all the systems that should be working together to connect. And
Mm.
a lot of the time, we don't do that. And it can literally be like I've got a little bit of a morning routine where I have to journal. I have to just I always go to the gym in the morning, and then afterwards I will go and get a coffee, and that's my kind of like mindset mode. So I'll
Yeah.
sit and I'll just chill for about half an hour. I'll do some journaling and just not do much else really. And that's my kind of reset that I have to do every single day. And if I don't do it, like if you walk out and you've forgotten your phone or something, it feels like that.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's creating habits. Um, and we obviously, when we do something again and again, it just becomes who we are. Like one of the things I actually include in one of my programs. I don't know if you've heard of the 6-step change process. It was something I studied when I was studying NLP actually. There was an area of NLP called modeling. So if someone has a trait or something that you think that you might like to include or have, you model that person, you find out how they're doing it, what their reactions are, and you kind of like look at everything to do with that thing that maybe you want to include in your life. And for me, I was fascinated by change because
Okay.
I run gyms. Um, and I would see people come in. Some people implement change really easily, and they can say, "I'm going to get fit. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this marathon." They do it, and they don't relapse or anything. And other people, I could see, would come into gym, get fit and healthy for a few months, leave for a few months, come back, they put on weight, they start again, and it was a cycle. And I was quite fascinated by it, so I studied it. And there's this 6-step change process that we generally go through if we're going to implement any change in our lives, whether it's career, health, fitness, you want to stop smoking, drinking, whatever it is, you generally go through these 6 steps. So the first one would be pre-contemplation, where
Hmm.
you don't even realize you need to change. Yeah. You haven't even thought about it. It's not a problem, and you're not there yet. So the next stage is contemplation, where you have awareness that maybe there's something in your life that you need to start looking in to make a change. The next one would be preparation. So you're now thinking, I need to prepare to make this change. So you're maybe gathering information, you're looking into it, who should I work with, what should I do, that type of thing. Then you step into action, where you actually start to make the change. Then
Mm.
when you've done that for a long while, you would go to a maintenance phase where you're maintaining that change. And then when you've done that consistently over a long period of time, that change becomes who you are, like brushing your teeth in the morning. You don't even realize you're doing it. You just get up and you do it. So that 6th step is something that I do use in my programs to kind of bring awareness to people that when you are implementing a change, it isn't always linear, and you do go through these processes. And there's certain things in each of these stages that help you to get to the next stage. And it's things like support, having someone there to help you. Having the correct information is like a big thing as well.
Mm.
But it's sort of transferable. So it's in career, it's in, anything that you do. Um, and I think sometimes it's nice to know that that is the process. And you can go up and down, around and round. But if you're going through that process, following the right stages and the right steps, then eventually a change can just become who you are. And you don't need to think about it. And that's kind of the stage where I like to get people to when creating health and fitness changes, basically.
Amazing. So it's a great sort of strategy as such that you use and you implement with your clients. And, I really like, again, sort of going back to what you were saying about sort of, again, creating these habits also. So introducing change, developing that, and then obviously creating habits for yourself as well. So when you were talking about the mindset and what you do on a sort of daily basis, I think is, really, really important. I think one of the biggest problems that we have as entrepreneurs is it's almost as if kind of stress and exhaustion is normalized. Like it's almost as if we should expect that because we're entrepreneurs and we've got to work ourselves to the ground and X, Y, and Z, and if we want to get results. And I feel that mindset plays a massive part of this, but so does your nervous system. And I know you're sort of touching on and talking about fight and flight mode and all of these things as well. Can we touch on the nervous system a little bit? Like, why is
Yeah.
nervous system regulation essential for us, in your
Yeah.
opinion?
Well, I think like it's for me, it's like the foundation. So I know like in business, we have business foundations. Yeah. There's things you need to get in place um, from the beginning in order to grow your business.
Mm,
And if you don't, then it's going to be harder, and you're probably going to get so far and then come back again and have to look at your foundations to get those business foundations correct before you can scale. And for me, I think the nervous system is one of the foundations of your
yeah.
health that you need to work on before you can do anything else. Like there's sort of like, other foundations would be nutrition, sleep, um, exercise, mindfulness, hydration, like that for me. And obviously, nervous system comes into the mindfulness bit. They're like the foundations that you need to get right before you can do anything with your health, if that makes sense. Like all of those areas play such an important part on your overall health. And that's why it's kind of inside out because like we talk about the fight or flight, like that's a lot, that's your nervous system. Like, you that needs to be regulated. And there's so many different modalities now for nervous system regulation. But for me, it's like it's foundational. Like if you're missing that part, it's almost like missing the sales part of of your business. You cannot miss that bit. Like that's one thing that you have to work on. And there's so many different ways that you can do it. And I think it doesn't need to be like a huge thing that you have to work on. There's tiny little things that you can implement daily to make
Mm,
sure that you are supporting that side of your health. Like I was saying, like just going for a walk in the morning, just taking some deep breaths, 5 minutes in the morning, um, like mindfulness, meditation. If you can get into more meditation, that massively supports it. But there's also other things because I know some people struggle with meditation, but like yoga, there's all different types of yoga that you can do, different, you know, all different names and some of them you might be. I know like yoga nidra, it's more sort of like longer stretches, holding, that type of thing. Then there's flow yoga, but all of that is a way of supporting your nervous system. So you're not on kind of go, go, go all the time. So you are taking that time to have some downtime and support your adrenal glands, basically.
yeah. No, this is great to hear as well, and some great advice around sort of nervous system and the simple things that they can do and really implement in terms of their sort of daily routines. And again, it kind of comes back to that, doesn't it? Habits, daily routines, little things that you can do consistently. And I suppose consistency is key, isn't it, for everything? Because I think when we're looking at the areas of work that you support your clients with, they have to factor in different things. And you've mentioned it already, sort of things like sleep, for example, nutrition. Obviously, we talked about mindset and the nervous system already. And there's many other things as well. And again, I think we as entrepreneurs, again, we kind of sacrifice sleep, for example. We don't always, and I'm sort of speaking in a general way here, but we don't always prioritize our nutrition. We don't always prioritize our, our sleep or our rest time, etc. And I think that's a massive problem because, again, we as entrepreneurs are always looking at the business side of things and always wanting to succeed, wanting to drive forwards, wanting to move, wanting to get the results. So if we look at it as a whole, and I know you're saying about sort of consistently bringing in little things and working on different elements and areas, but for our listeners, if they are struggling with all of this in terms of they just don't know where to start, where to really focus on, and how to move things forwards, so that it doesn't jeopardize their own energy, their own mental health and well-being, and obviously physical health as well. What advice would you give them to start off with?
My advice to anyone sort of creating change or looking to, get fit or healthy or look after themselves is always the same. Like, start small. Like, honestly, so many people, particularly like January, February, I'm going to get fit, I'm going to get healthy, I'm going to join a gym, I'm going to change my diet, I'm going to start running, I'm going to do like, and they have so many things that they've decided that they're going to do. They put so much pressure on themselves to do it that then they miss one session and they kind of go into a spiral of, oh, I'm rubbish, I can't do this. The self-talk comes in, which isn't good for your mind and your body. And then, it's this huge spiral. So rather than kind of overcommitting, which I think entrepreneurs have a trait of doing because they know that, like in business, we want to do all the things and they're good at it. So when it comes to like health and that, I want to do all the things. I'm going to get the best coach. I'm going to train the most and that, all of that. Whereas you don't need to. It is honestly starting small. And it's the same with diet and fitness. Just do one thing. Start with one thing, whether that is that you're going to join a gym, whether it is you're going to get a trainer, whether it is that you're going to start walking. Like, it doesn't need to be this huge plan, because how you create consistency over a longer period of time is you start small with one thing. Then when that one thing becomes you and it's just easy, you add another thing. So then you're stacking your habits. So, like I was saying, with those 6 stages, you start with one thing until you're used to doing it. Then you add another thing until you're used to doing it. Then you can add another thing. So you're not putting a lot of stress on your body all of a sudden and your mind, because it then just fits into your life. And that's another thing that's super important as well, is things have to fit into what you're currently doing. More so when you're running a business, it's got to fit around that, because if it doesn't fit, you're not going to do it. If you don't like enjoy it, you're probably not going to do it either. So it's finding something that works for you. And it doesn't have to be the gym and it doesn't have to be a Pilates class. It can be whatever health or wellness is for you. And I think that's the important bit for me, and the journey that I've been through. I've kind of created like what I call like modalities to creating like optimal health. So there's like 7 steps, and different areas of health that people can adopt, that I believe creates the overall best form of health. And that is functional strength training, because that's my thing from my bodybuilding background. Lifting weights. Yeah, I think as women, when we get to a certain age, it's really important that we keep that muscle and that we make our bones strong, because our hormones start to change. And it can obviously lead to osteoporosis and things. So weight training is important. Um, Reconnecting with your pelvic floor and your core is super important for women. Um, we don't want to get to that age where we laugh and we've wet ourselves. Like,
No.
that's why pelvic floor is really important. So that's another thing that you can incorporate individually or within yoga, Pilates, that style class as well. Obviously, nutrition, expert nutrition. And what I build into a lot of my nutrition is good gut health, making sure that we are eating foods that support our gut, because I think that has a considerable link to our mind. So like anti-inflammatory foods, low toxin foods, all of that type of stuff is super important. Then we've got obviously the emotional and the mindset side of it, which is another element which we've kind of talked about in various forms. The detox part for me as well, and like what I class as like smart living cleansing, is the gut health and the low tox. So that comes into a lot of the different elements. When we start working with gut health, it's really interesting. I like low toxic foods, and like it doesn't even need to just be foods actually. Like I've learned a lot myself through the journey I've been through in a lot of the things we consume have
Mm.
toxins in that we don't even realize. That works against our bodies. Like I didn't even realize until a few years ago that there was a thing called the what is it, the lean 15 and the dirty dozen. Have you ever heard of that?
No, I haven't.
So I think it's on the World Food website, and they update it every year. World Health Organization, I think it is. So basically, the lean 15 is the 15 foods that have the least toxins in. So they are the good ones that you want to eat more of. The dirty dozen is the 12 foods that have the most toxins in. So they're sprayed with the most pesticides and all of that. And and those foods you should either go organic so that they're not sprayed, or avoid them. But they're things that I'm sure that when you look at it, you're probably eating every day and you don't realize. But they have a lot of metals and things like that that we are consuming. And obviously, that's going into our body, which isn't helping us overall health. So, little things like that you can build into your diet really, really easily. And that's something, yeah, that I like to do. And then the other things that part of the modalities is opportunities for what I call like whole body wellness. And that
Okay.
is things like nervous system regulation, maybe yoga, Pilates, emotional work, sound therapy, hormonal health. So it's all these other things that come under the wellness umbrella that we don't necessarily think of, but are super important to overall health. And then the last one is metabolic health. So working with your metabolism, recovery, sleep, to create, making sure that everything in your body is working effectively. And so, yeah, so those are kind of like the seven modalities that I believe create overall optimal health.
Mm.
But for people that are kind of just getting into this or just looking to start fitness, it kind of gives you an idea that actually there's a hell of a lot of things that you can start with. It's not just like one thing. There's like, for
Yeah.
me, that's like seven different areas that you could take one area and work on, then take another area. So there's lots of things that come into, yeah, it's never
Yeah.
just one thing.
No, and it's a fantastic, the modalities and the overall kind of, I'm calling it a methodology, but, ultimately all linking to the mind and the body. I can see, really have it. Well, I know it creates great impact in terms of the work that you've done with your clients already, but I can see that this can have such a big effect and an impact on people's overall health and obviously success as well, because obviously our listeners are female entrepreneurs, and I'm sure there's many of them listening. I'm sat here whilst you're speaking about it going, oh, I'm quite intrigued with gut health and really thinking about what am I feeding my own body, because it's fascinating, isn't it? And I think if it does affect us or impact us in any way, we want to know about it. And I think that's the key thing. I always like to be educated and I like to know about pretty much everything that affects me, so, or my family. So I'm fascinated and really interested to find out more about that. So I'm sure many of our listeners have probably got lots and lots of questions around this. Um, but before we kind of wrap this up, because I know we could talk about this for hours, and I'm really, really fascinated, and absolutely, would recommend anyone listening to this go and connect with Emma. We'll share everything afterwards, and obviously all the details in the show notes. But I want to talk about sort of sustaining this and maintaining, because I think again with business we look at sustainability and we look at kind of consistency.
But then I think we've got to look at our own health in that way as well, haven't we? Because again, there's, it kind of works exactly the same, where if you're starting whatever it is on, on your fitness journey, or if you're looking at gut health, for example, you're looking at the toxins and the things that you're feeding yourselves, how does someone actually maintain kind of their route, their pathway to optimal health as such? What
Yeah.
can they do with that?
I think it goes back to almost what we were saying about habit stacking. And just because consistency over a long period of time is going to give you results, whether that's in business or, health or, any area of creating a change. So that 6-step change process actually does help people in knowing that before something just becomes who you are. So when you sustain it, there is a process to go through. So it isn't just a case of, I'm going to be like me deciding today, I'm going to be healthy, and then tomorrow expecting to be healthy. You've got to work on it like you do anything, like in business. You don't just get clients, you've got to consistently work on getting those clients through the door. It's exactly the same with, creating consistency in your health, whatever area of your health you might be looking into. I think sometimes just knowing that it's a process and becoming aware that it's a process almost takes the stress away from it, because you then don't get to that stage where maybe you've been doing a healthy diet for 2 weeks and then you go out at the weekend and you think, oh, I can't do this anymore. It's a process, and that's fine. You just get back on it. So I think that helps with consistency, is starting small, creating a habit stacking. So you've created that one habit, it's become who you are because you've gone through those 6 steps. Then you add on another one, then you add on another one, and that gradually builds up to you creating that long-term consistent plan. And it's not
Yeah.
easy. Like, it isn't easy.
It's never easy.
It's,
Trying to build anything, I think, isn't it? In any aspect of our mind, life, business, that consistency, that approach is brilliant, but it's hard work, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's where the mind work comes in, because, if you start doubting yourself, same in business, then you start almost going down that, oh, I can't, I'm going to give up type attitude. But that's where, coaches are great, because you've got that support from someone, and support makes a huge, huge difference when you're going through any kind of change in life.
Yeah, definitely. Emma, it's been a pleasure, and such a great conversation. And I know there is so much knowledge and value that you've brought to this episode, but there's so much more that you do and you support and help people with. Before we leave, what is your final piece of advice for our listeners today?
My final piece of advice, I think, if you're looking to make any changes to your health or anything, I think the main piece of advice is just do it and start small.
Yeah. Do it, start small, start
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, that's fantastic advice. Where can our listeners find you and connect with you today?
And the best place I'm on is Instagram. So it's Emma Sills. It's SILLS fitness. And if you head over to my Instagram, you'll be able to download our free guide on how to speed your metabolism up for sustained weight loss as well.
Amazing. All of Emma's links and her bio is in the show notes. Go and connect with her. She's incredible at what she does. And I know that if you are on the pathway, or you're wanting and, starting, I know we're at the beginning of 2026 now, but you're wanting to really lean into your health and fitness and all of the things that Emma's talked about today, then reach out to her. She is the go-to person that you want to be reaching out to and obviously working with. Emma, it's been an absolute pleasure, darling. Thank you so much for coming on today's episode.
Thank you.
Thanks to everyone that's tuned in to today's episode. Please don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast, and I'll see you all again next time.
Thank you for tuning in to the Actually I Can Female Entrepreneur Podcast with me, your host, Kaylee Greenacre. If you are ready to build, grow, and scale your dream 6-figure or multi-6-figure business, then head to our website now for more information, or connect with me on socials to see how you can create your dream business and dream life.